Welcome to the Rational Optimist Podcast. Thanks to Elon Musk, our stranded astronauts are home.
So 2 astronauts, they went up there June last year, expecting to stay no more than 10 days. Ended up staying 9 months. And it was all because of a failure to do with Boeing's spaceship, which has been a disaster for 10 years. I mean, people love to hate on Elon, but he's literally saving lives here.
I watched a live stream of this, and it was inspiring in a different way than the rocket launches. So the pod, it's going 17,000 miles an hour, and it slows down to 20 miles an hour before it hits the water, and it does all that slowing in about 20 minutes, which is pretty cool. And partially the atmosphere slows it down, but then parachutes. I was kind of struck by the fact that parachutes are still the best tech we have for slowing stuff down.
So I had a very proud moment as a father this morning. My daughter, when we were cooking the breakfast together, she said, "Dad, did you hear about those astronauts that were stuck in space for 60 years? And I said, well, it wasn't exactly 60 years, honey. But I was very proud that she knew about it, and she told me all about what happened and how, being in space too long damages the body and all that stuff. So we're getting, you know what? We set the Rational Optimist up to inspire the kids and tell them the stories of great things happening. I feel like we're starting to make a difference.
Where'd you hear about it?
She heard about it in school. Her teacher actually told her about it, and I think she showed her some of the video because she knew that it came down in a parachute and it splashed in the water and all this stuff. So it was cool.
Wow. Did she know that it was greeted by dolphins?
She didn't mention the dolphins. There you go.
You know what?
Easter egg.
You know why I like that? Because of Elon's story about how he had to do tests or do calculations to see how likely it was for a landing rocket to land on a whale.
Yeah. Dolphins are bullish. If the dolphins are there, we're good. Listen, the backstory to this is fascinating. It's not just as simple as SpaceX bringing astronauts down. So back in 2014, Boeing or NASA essentially awarded Boeing and SpaceX 2 parts of the same contract. And it said, hey, build a cost-effective spacecraft to transport astronauts to the International Space Center and back. Boeing's Starship program, it was years late, billions of dollars over budget. And then by the time the Starliner actually launched the first crew flight, which was last June, there was an issue with the rocket. And basically they got the astronauts up there, but the NASA deemed it too dangerous to send the astronauts back down on the same spacecraft. So SpaceX had to swoop in and save the day.
You know, they have a so-called lifeboat on the International Space Station. I don't know if it's a rocket or a capsule or whatever, but something that can get astronauts off of it in an emergency. But it's Russian. And so I guess part of the reason they didn't use it is because our relationship with Russia is strained these days. And SpaceX is a big reason, the reason actually, that we're not relying on Russia to get to space.
I mean, it's crazy. In 2011, the US literally had to beg Russia to hitch a ride on one of its rockets to get to the ISS. I actually told my wife this, and she's like, well, why is NASA paying Boeing and SpaceX? I said, NASA has completely lost the ability to go to space. And you're right, SpaceX and Elon and his team of engineers single-handedly turned America from last place in space and nobody anymore to the world superpower. And it's incredible that one private company has done this.
Have you read about what being in space for a long time does to your body?
Kind of, but fill me in.
Lose up to 10% of your bone density. You grow 1 to 2 inches taller. And it's really hard to sleep because the ISS orbits the Earth every 90 minutes. So they see sunrise and sunset. The astronauts see a sunrise and sunset 16 times a day.
That's incredible. I mean, I wonder, is the bone density thing reversible?
I would have to think so when you get back into gravity. I don't know though.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it would be actually interesting to know, has anyone been up there that long? I mean, 9 months is a long time. Could the people even walk when they got back, the astronauts? So first of all, the capsule's very claustrophobic. So it lands in the water, they get a crane, they put it on a platform, and then they open a little door that's like, it looked like maybe it was 3 feet tall at the most. And they grab the astronauts by their legs and they pull them out. And there's like several people holding them under the arms and holding them under their legs. And they pick them up and they put them in a wheelchair.
So it looks like they can't walk. I don't know. It's probably just precautionary. I don't know why they wouldn't be able to walk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, not experiencing something for, when you get on, you're on a boat for a couple of hours and you get off and you have like the wobbly legs, that would be this, but on steroids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, these astronauts, they go through a lot. I count them as heroes. It does not look easy to do what they do.
Yeah, I feel like back 50 years ago, whatever, we really made national heroes of astronauts. And probably if someone came from small town Ohio or something like that, you held a ticker tape parade for them. I think we should get back to that, because these guys truly are, in many ways the pinnacle, and they study so hard and they do incredible things. For me, this whole story of Boeing failing and leaving the astronauts up there for 9 months, SpaceX coming to the rescue, it's a story about innovation versus bureaucracy, a story of entrepreneurial companies versus managers, suits that just come in and manage the decline in the company. And I feel like we're in a unique moment now where it's time to disrupt the old guard of sclerotic aerospace companies and this new breed. SpaceX obviously, but a couple of weeks ago we talked about all these new companies landing on the moon and mining asteroids and stuff. There's just such an exciting time in space, and it's all being driven by these entrepreneurs. It's incredible.
Yeah. Fun fact, during the live stream, when it splashed down off Tallahassee, and they called it the Gulf of America.
Oh, nice. That's nice. I think naming conventions are important. Statues and man-made beauty and all these things, very, very important. So I would be in favor of the change. Never understood why it was the Gulf of Mexico anyway, but Gulf of America sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on? Because I want to talk about if we humans are getting dumber.
Yeah, so great article in the Financial Times recently titled "Have Humans Passed Peak Brain Power?" And it was basically across a range of tests. Scores came out that looked at the average person's ability to reason and solve novel problems, and they've peaked in the early 2010s. What the hell is going on here?
Everyone seemed to know this already, but they chalked it up to COVID, which made sense. But the studies cited in this article, the declines began in like 2012, 2013, long before COVID. So I don't know what's going on. What do you think's going on?
I just want to show a couple of charts before we get into going on, but you can see this chart from Financial Times: performance and reasoning and problem solving tests in decline. You can see science, reading, math scores for teenagers down, numeracy and literacy for adults also down, and I believe the decline of reading, the percent of US teenagers who read in their leisure time, all-time low. It's less than 1 in 5 now. That is quite shocking, right? So if they're not reading books, what are they doing? What's going on here?
They're on social media. They're on their smartphones, of course.
On the phones, on the digital devices. The article kind of hinted at that, right? I thought it kind of gave some smart commentary around, hey, smartphones weren't invented in 2012, but a few very important things did happen in 2012. 2012 was actually the end of 2011. Facebook launches the mobile app. 2012 was the first time the majority of Americans got a smartphone. 2012 was also, I believe, the launch of the front-facing camera on the iPhone. Together, these basically meant you spent a lot more time on your phone and a lot more time on apps and a lot less time on other things.
The author makes a distinction in the article, which I think is important, in that using technology, being on the internet, is not bad in and of itself. In a lot of ways, it's great. And if you go online and deliberately look for something, or go to like read a newsletter that you deliberately want to read, that can be a net benefit in your life. It's when you passively consume information. It's when you're on Twitter and just scrolling and looking at whatever it gives you, or TikTok or Instagram or any of the social platforms. It's that passive consumption of whatever the algorithm decides to serve you up that is worse. The worst thing for your brain was the author's thesis.
Yeah, listen, and some people have argued this, and rightly, and said, hey, we don't actually have conclusive studies that, point blank bona fide point to, oh, hey, it's 100% the smartphones.
Everyone says that, but how would you ever demonstrate that in a study? That seems impossible.
Listen. This is one thing. I don't need the studies. You can keep the studies. I see it with my own eyes. I see it with myself, how I feel, how my brain feels, how distracted I am when I'm on my smartphone too much. I've seen it with numerous other kids and adults and all these people. Dude, it's the phones. It's the phones. I love technology. We're rational optimists here. Technology is great, but you have to, as you said, you have to draw the line between how you're using these things.
Yeah. So Jonathan Haidt's book is the definitive piece of the compilation of research on this called The Anxious Generation. And I'm with you. It's just, I just know, right? I just know it's the phones. What else could it be, first of all? And second of all, how would you have a controlled experiment where, like, I don't even know how you would demonstrate that it's the phones, because you can't control every aspect of people's lives except one group uses phones and the other doesn't. It's impossible. So we're never going to have a direct one-to-one link. I feel like people who say that, it's cope.
Yeah, I feel like this is 100%. I feel like this is the investor Peter Lynch used to say, like, invest in what you know. This is like, guys, just look around and open your eyes and see what's going on. You don't need the studies to tell you. The decline in test scores is kind of, it doesn't hit you in the face. But one staff from Haidt's book did hit me in the face. So since 2010, US teen girls aged 10 to 14 seen a 188% jump in ER visits for self-harm and 167% spike in suicides. As a father, as any parent out there, that's going to hit you hard in the face. And I think that's directly related to the smartphones. And yeah.
I think we humans are going to figure it out, though. So recent surveys, around half of Generation Z wishes social media platforms didn't exist. Kids and their parents are increasingly using flip phones that don't have social media on them. Offlining is gaining in popularity. People get it. It's like you've compared to smoking, and I think that's spot on. Where when it was new, it was cool, the negative effects were not apparent, then they became apparent and we adjusted. So I think we humans are going to figure it out. I just hope people wake up quickly, because these trends are worrying.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel bad for the previous generation that kind of was just thrown into this. It literally was like handing your kid a packet of cigarettes and we didn't know about the effects. And that's really bad for that generation. The good news for us specifically with young kids is that we are waking up to the dangers. I mean, my daughter's school sent out a survey the other day basically saying, hey, this school is phone free, but then what happens is they have smartphones outside school. We need to solve what Jonathan Haidt calls the collective action problem. Will you opt in to having a smartphone free environment in your house? And that is huge. I mean, we're finally waking up to it. I thought James Petrakouskis had a good thought in his Faster Please blog, which was essentially, hey, look, we're not peak anything. We're not peak brain power. You can adjust to these trends. So if we ditch the phones and adjust, we can solve this. It's not like a foregone conclusion, which I thought was just it was a good analogy.
Yeah, it's a good observation, especially when you study what I'll call rational optimist history. Any prediction of peak anything is usually wrong. Peak oil, almost everyone bought it, and it was spectacularly wrong.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like, something really interesting that you said to me a while ago is that it feels like the last 15 years or decade of technology was kind of negative in some ways. It was the phones, it was social media, whereas the next decade with AI, I think that's going to be much, much better, because you can give kids one-on-one tutors. I think AI will allow you to spend less time on your phone, because you'll basically have this personal assistant that only serves you up what you need to see, if that's what you choose to do, instead of, like, imagine serving up the 10 tweets you absolutely need to see today versus spending an hour finding those 10 tweets. That's where we're going. And for kids, again, we're waking up to the fact that, hey, do not hand your kid a smartphone. That is extremely, extremely bad. And if you're going to do it, hand them a dumb phone, or some people call it a kale phone, basically a a Nokia 3310 or something like that.
What is the technology policy in your house?
I do something that you told me to do. I keep my phone in a drawer when I'm with the kids. I think, monkey see, monkey do. If they see you always on your smartphone, they'll want to do the same, and then no tablets. I remember Casey Handler of Terraform Industries someone asked him, do you give your kids iPads? He said no. They said, why? He said, because my kids are chill on planes and other kids that have iPads are not. So no tablets, try to limit phones. What about you?
No tablets at all for the kids?
Basically like 1 hour a week when my son is at football and my daughter's home, and then it flips.
Absolutely no phones for the kids. I try to set my phone aside when I'm home and don't need it. But I have a watch that links to the phone, and I have messages from certain people like you on Slack that come through to me no matter what. So I can see. So anything important still gets through to me. I'm sad to say my kids use the iPad a little more than they should. I very strictly control what they do on the iPad. Only games and not like flashy, light, addictive Candy Crush type games, like more educational games. But we could do better in that department. I will say my first son, he basically did not watch TV for the first 2 years of his life. And then COVID struck. And then we had our second son, and now they watch TV all the time. It is what it is.
I feel like TV is a lot better though, because it's like a shared collective thing. You have to argue over what you watch.
Yeah.
It really is so much better. One thing I did struggle with is I usually go to the gym after work, and when I don't, you're going straight from work, straight from like your mind buzzing about what you're doing to being with the kids. I feel like that at that point it's really, really important just to ditch the phone, because otherwise you're just going to be glued to it. Finally, I actually have a business idea for you. My vision, we're going to have phones. It's important to be, the kids are 14, 15. It's important to be able to contact them. I feel like going back to the Nokia 3310 isn't exactly the answer.
Beepers.
But I don't know if let me pitch it. This company, Daylight, have you ever heard of them? They're basically like, I'll show you the graph on screen here. They pitch it as the computer de-invented. It's basically an iPad that feels like paper. And it's a Kindle that feels like paper, let's say, and you can draw on and make notes and things like that. I feel like if we can de-invent the phone, we can go retro. You build in texts, you build in calls, but that's pretty much it. I feel like there's something there for this wave of kids coming up that need a phone, but they don't want to have the apps.
I think that will be standard operating procedure for parents within 5 years.
So you're telling me this is the $1 million idea?
I think it's happening already. I think the train's already left the station.
Tell me what is going on in self-driving cars.
One more thing on the are we getting dumber topic. So you brought up the Faster Please Substack that had an article on this. It was a great article. And one of the I don't know if he said this directly, but what I took from it is that when we got calculators, they freed us up to not have to memorize the square root of some random number. Like they're overall a good thing, because you don't necessarily need to know how to do advanced algebra. And you could compare artificial intelligence like ChatGPT, Claude, to calculators back then, where they can handle like the basic thinking for you, so you could do more advanced thinking and more like useful tasks. I don't think that's true. I don't buy the argument, because I think your mind's like a muscle and you need to constantly work it out. But it's worth bringing up because there's maybe something to it.
Yeah, I had a similar point. I was saying that the superpower in this digital age is to read a book. I know that sounds like a luddie, and the important thing is not the information you get from the book, but the actual repetition of your brain of concentrating. I mean, that's essentially what's behind this article, the inability to concentrate. I can't remember, someone was on Barry Weiss's podcast at the Free Press recently, and they were a teacher at Stanford or whatever, and a kid came to them, Stanford, best kids in the world, and came to them in the first semester and was like, hey, like, you're asking us to read full books. I haven't read a full book in my life. And so I feel like that's It's like a retro superpower. Read a book.
Yeah. All right. Now, what's going on in self-driving cars?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the big news is that General Motors selected Nvidia to help build their self-driving fleet. Gonna make a prediction here. I know I'm being a bit pessimistic. This thing is gonna fail. I think GM will go out of business before they get Nvidia to build them a self-driving car.
Elaborate.
Listen, I mean, look, GM, of course, they had Cruise, which was, behind Waymo, Google's self-driving car unit. It was kind of number two, at least in America, with self-driving. And then they had that accident last year. They folded it. Now it seems like GM is trying to go its own way in self-driving. Nothing so far. Listen, GM is behind in the EV race. And it totally missed that. And it's getting its lunch eaten by Tesla and now the Chinese companies. If it can't nail EVs, you're telling me it's going to nail robo-taxis? I don't think so.
I think you're right. I think robo-taxis, self-driving cars, it feels like it might be something close to a winner-take-all market. Are you going to buy the second best self-driving car? You're not. You're gonna buy the one that keeps you the safest.
Yeah, I mean, and just on the winner-take-all market, you see, right, GM, fair enough, they're selected NVIDIA, great, we're going to give this a real go. Meanwhile, Waymo is absolutely booming. So 7 months ago, they were doing 50,000 rides a week. They have self-driving cars in San Francisco. It's now they're in DC, Phoenix, Austin. 50,000 rides 7 months ago. Now 200,000 rides per week.
So the chart on the screen right now is by month. It's going exponential, and it's going exponential on a monthly basis.
I mean, this is a trend. How long have we been hearing about this? At least a decade, right? And I remember in 2018, it was supposedly here. So why is this taking off all of a sudden? Why is the technology good enough now to kind of make it go exponential?
They must have so many lawyers on their staff because every place they want to go, they have to deal with some local government, and the worst of the worst NIMBYs are in there fighting tooth and nail to keep self-driving cars out of their community, I'm sure. So I think the lack of adoption so far has more to do with that than it does with the technology, because we already know in a lot of places where it's flat and wide roads and the weather's pretty good, they're already better drivers than humans.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they are. You're right. It's one of those things that it's kind of like when Uber was expanding and they banned it in New York, and Uber pulled this trick that they somehow got everyone to text their local congressman or representative to like unban Uber in New York. I feel like Waymo will need to do something similar to get the public on its side. I think it is. It's getting the good stories out there. The other thing that's happened is that the artificial intelligence in Waymo's cars and Tesla's cars, it's gotten so good that essentially they threw out all the hand-coded rules. Like if you see a yellow light, slow down. If you see a red light, stop. They threw out all that, and basically just the car runs on full 100% AI now, which has, I believe, Tesla's robo-taxis, the distance between disengagements when a human has to take over the wheel is down like 99%, which is it's a good thing. 99% in a year. That means like less disengagements, less humans having to take over the wheel. The AI is better.
A lot of startups in this area too, huh? Especially with autonomous trucks. We have Aurora Innovation, Bot Auto, and a lot of companies from China too. We haven't even touched on.
Yeah, I mean, China is just such a separate topic. I actually have a funny story that George Osborne, who was like the UK Secretary of Treasury, he recently went to Wuhan and he took a robo taxi, and his reaction was like, "Oh my god, like this technology is actually here." He was expecting it to be like years away, and I've heard similar things from people. Of course, Waymo is the big one in the US. I took one in San Francisco at the end of last year. Hopefully I'll take one again when I'm there in a few weeks. These guys are like, clearly the lawyers have given them the go ahead, as you said, because they're expanding in Arizona. They're actually rolling out in DC now. They took the remember the wait list that we had in Austin? That's gone. You can just get one in Austin now. So cool. They're expanding.
Yeah. Talk about the new EV charger really quick before we go.
Yeah, so I mean BYD, which is like it's basically like Tesla in China. It came out with a new EV charger which charges the car fully in 5 minutes. Is that right?
That's their claim. I think it's like prototype in perfect conditions before the battery degrades, which EV batteries do. But still a huge accomplishment because it basically puts it on par with stopping your car at a gas station and filling it up, right? It makes it just as fast to fill up your EV battery. So you've been saying for a couple months that BYD is ahead of Tesla, and this seems to confirm it.
Yeah, well, look, they passed Tesla in EV sales last year. I was talking to some China analysts recently, and they said Xiaomi, which used to just make smartphones, they're actually going a different route with the batteries, which is essentially we don't recharge the battery. You'll pull into a gas station, a battery station, and someone will just swap out the battery instantly and give you a fresh 100% charged battery. That's really interesting too. Look, China is so good at developing technologies really, really fast and iterating on them and driving down costs. BYD is about to launch a new car that can drive from Miami to New York in a single charge. I see it here. The thing about China is what do you really know goes, or you don't really know what goes on. With BYD, we do know what goes on because here in Ireland, the cars are absolutely everywhere now. And everyone I talk to and all of them that I've been in, they're excellent. And of course, what happened was they probably, re-engineered a Tesla to begin with a couple of years ago. But hey, it's a force to be reckoned with. I think something to definitely be aware of.
Yeah, it's interesting why it's such a hard problem to charge a battery so fast. So the new BYD charging system is 1 megawatt, which is as much as you would need to power 800 homes. It's just like you need to get an incredible amount of electricity in like an incredibly small amount of time, which generates heat and stress and danger. And it's a hard problem to solve. So even if they're exaggerating their accomplishments a little bit, it's a huge accomplishment.
How do you see the world changing when we all have either own self-driving cars or have robo-taxis, basically like robo-taxi Uber?
I guess we'll probably get even more spread out. Like I live 6 hours from New York City. I live 3.5 hours from Boston. It's one of the major downsides of living in Vermont is I'm far from everything. And if I could hop in a self-driving car and work or take a nap or do anything that's not, have to be focused on the road for 6 hours, it's a game changer.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll just use cars for a lot more things when you don't have to drive or, if learning curves make this technology better, faster, cheaper, you might just use cars for a lot more things, which then you can say, oh, hey, that's going to add to congestion. Yeah, sure. But if we get the drones at the same time, so there's no more delivery drivers on the roads, maybe it all balances out. I don't know.
It doesn't have to add to congestion because you have to think there'll be less accidents and the cars will talk to each other. You ever see the video of the self-driving cars driving around a track? And they're all there. It's a crowded track, and they're all like very close to each other's bumpers, but they're all coordinated, so they all stay the exact same distance away from each other. And then they replace them with human drivers, and they're all like almost hitting each other. So I think the congestion. I think there's a lot of room for improvement there.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. It's a great point. I mean, just the mere fact that 42,000 Americans died on the roads last year. I think it was 42,000 the year before that and 40,000 the year before that. If you can reduce that by 95%, that's just it's literally the more self-driving cars you have, the more lives you save.
All right, I'm stealing your dose of optimism today. You're going to have to take a seat.
Oh, I had two for you. I had a spicy one, but go ahead. Go on.
Oh, this is a personal dose of optimism. Today, I went to my 3-year-old son's school and surprised him and read his class 2 books. And I had been planning to do it for almost 2 months, and I just kept putting it off. Felt like I couldn't get the 45 minutes to do it. And man, I want to do it every week. It made him so happy, made his class so happy. That's what life's all about.
That's awesome. That's the best dose of optimism you could say.
You can do one too if you'd like.
Yeah, I should. They should invite me in. I love reading stories.
All right, viewers, you can boost our optimism by hitting the subscribe button. ringing that bell and leaving us a comment. This greatly helps our channel grow. We appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you next week.